Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tousi TV, your global news channel. We have some breaking news coming from the British government as the Prime Minister and the Labour cabinet are now confirming the new version of digital identification. This is slightly different to what you've already been seeing in Europe, for example. The European Union style ID cards in France, Germany and other places. This is very, very different because this is going to be a digital hub for everything about you in the UK, your behavior, all your information and what the government can do. And the discussions there amongst the globalists in the British state is also about the Chinese-style social credit system going forward, not to instantly introduce it, but of course to discuss the various options to help citizens be protected, apparently, according to the British government. Now, let me give you guys all the details about this dystopian nonsense. Of course, there have been some attempts in the past to introduce ID cards. This is different, obviously. ID cards in the past, which was about 15 years ago with the previous Labour government. Of course, the Tories opposed it, but things are getting worse. So all adults in the UK will be issued with digital ID cards under the new plans outlined by Keir Starmer and his cabinet, using the excuse of illegal immigration. Now, this was their plan all along, and I'm going to explain why. This is different to the existing EU-style ID cards. This is the central hub for all the information about you and what the police and what the government and what the other authorities, what, for example, big pharmaceutical companies and various other lobbies could do. Essentially, this is the government version of what you do with if you have, for example, an Amazon account or an Alexa, where obviously it gets your data to give you marketing boost, to give you guys more advertising that's more tailor-made, right? That already happens with private corporations, and obviously people give consent to their data. They say, well, I'm going to use Alexa, so you can take my data and you can give me advertising for what I want. But this is more of a government version. This isn't really about what you would get. But obviously they will say, well, in the future, we could actually be able to tell your symptoms and everything else, and we could actually recommend you what sort of medication you might need or what sort of health treatment you might need. In the meantime, they could do a crackdown. They say that this is about doing a crackdown on illegal immigration, which is that was the whole point of the excuse. They haven't been tackling illegal immigration because they wanted to use this as an excuse to introduce this. The government is falling apart as we speak. Downing Street have had yet another senior resignations over the last few minutes. Steph Driver has now resigned as the head of communications in number 10 Downing Street. Of course, the government and Keir Starmer are saying everything is fine. Even though we've had millions of resignations over the last few weeks, everything is going well. Meanwhile, the rest of the Labour Party are plotting a leadership challenge against the Prime Minister. Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, is now getting ready to make a move against Starmer. Now, we will talk about the division inside the government, but let me give you guys the actual information, the details about the new digital ID system, the central hub. Anybody seeking to start a new job, or, but it goes beyond that, renting a property, or doing anything that would involve the authorities, would be required to present their ID, their digital ID, essentially all the information that they have, which will be checked automatically against the central database of individuals that would be living in the UK. So this would be given to anybody in the UK as a resident, whether you're a permanent resident, whether you are a British citizen, or if you're not, and that way they could actually differentiate between each person and what sort of criteria they should have. This is completely disgusting, by the way. Now, as we said, back in 2009, the final days of the last Labour government, Gordon Brown wanted to introduce digital IDs. David Cameron became Prime Minister. The Conservative Party in government immediately scrapped the plan. Because obviously, according to David Cameron and the Tories, this was on the basis that this was an erosion of civil liberties. This was a campaign also pushed by David Davis who was obviously a part of the shadow cabinet under the Tories. The Tories always opposed this, saying this is just nonsense. We have to protect British liberties, which is part of common sense, part of the British Constitution. The Liberal Democrats also opposed it, obviously, because of social liberties, personal liberties. But again, every single time you have the socialists in power, they always go towards total government control. Socialists with the alliance with the Islamic side, right now Shabana Mahmood is the new Home Secretary. She is pushing, obviously, this policy. She's supportive of the idea. She's always been supportive. This month, she said that she was very clear that the government had to deal with various factors that are making things slightly difficult for the government to manage society. So whether it's the illegal immigration with the border crisis, whether it's about what's going on the ground in terms of the behavior of people who live in the United Kingdom, Shabana Mahmood believes that we have to make it easier for the government to be able to monitor people, to help them, apparently, to keep them safe. Shabana Mahmood said, I want to make sure that we can clamp down on that. I think that a system of digital ID can also help with the illegal working enforcement of other laws as well. I do think that that has a role to play for dealing with our immigration. My long-term personal political view has always been in favor of ID cards. Now, as we said, a number of European countries, the continent of Europe, culturally, of course, Europeans are slightly more authoritarian than the Anglo side, the Brits, and of course the Americans. But even in Europe, we haven't had a full-on total control system. They have digital IDs, they have ID cards, but Britain is taking it even further, which goes against everything that the Anglosphere stands for. Now, in Europe, it makes sense. Europeans tend to be slightly more pro-control against liberties because they believe that control will keep them contained and safe. But of course, the Anglo side, culturally, historically, were always risk takers, especially those who moved from the continent and created the United States of America, and those who went to Australia and Canada. They had a different mentality. They believe in risk and liberty. But of course, the European culture is slightly different. But even in Europe, they don't have this. This is a whole new level of authoritarianism. Now, this is how they will potentially look, not exactly the layout I'm going to show you, but in terms of the information that you will have. So this is obviously using Keir Starmer as an example of a user and the app on their phone. The app will also be able to track your movements in the future and be able to know exactly where you are, what you've been doing. Again, this is all to help you, but this is the framework. This is the framework to build on it, because there have been many discussions in Davos over the last few years as part of the annual World Economic Forum conference to help build the technology to be able to have the foundation of it, which will be this, and then you could add to it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So you could actually, instead of keep introducing new systems, you could just have one as a central hub, and you could obviously add more control for the state over your life. The idea is to then obviously introduce a social credit system, which is still being discussed, obviously, but the upcoming app will be able to track everything you do in terms of your political views, your voting records, obviously obvious information about your car, your household, your appointments, and obviously your relationship with the local council as well. Everything will be in one place, as well as your health records, which is slightly dangerous because if it gets leaked or if it's been taken advantage of, or if it's being given to, for example, big pharmaceutical companies in order to help you, but this is your private information that could be passed on to others or could be hacked into with a basic cyber attack. Now, in case you haven't already seen the existing social credit systems that we have, for example, they're introduced by the CCP, which has been trialed in China, and according to the Chinese government, it's been successful. This is a ladder, social ladder thing. So on the left, you have some examples. Doing good things, you get points. So positively influencing your neighborhood or taking care of elderly family members, you get positive points. Illegally protesting against the authorities, not visiting aging parents regularly, you get negative points. You lose points on that. You also, for example, have praising the government on social media, helping the poor, having a good financial credit history, you get points. But if you post anti-government message on social media, spread rumors in the internet, or insincere apologies for crimes committed, you will lose points. So that's the system that's already been obviously implemented and practiced in China. That has already been discussed among the so-called experts in Davos. That is now being fed into Canadian government, the British government, New Zealand and Australia. Which obviously will then be implemented unless there is a backlash. Having said that, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party lied days before the last general election. On the well, actually, it was even just as the election was happening, 7th of July, 2024. The campaign was already ongoing. Labour rejected Tony Blair's calls for ID cards. Now, Tony Blair was the main man behind the initial ID cards idea back in the 2000s. And that didn't happen because the Tories came and cancelled it. Then Tony Blair and his minions became pretty active in the World Economic Forum and obviously the Bilderberg meetings to push for the idea, even if he's not Prime Minister. Then he's been pushing while Starmer was in opposition. Of course, Starmer couldn't really say publicly that I support it. So he had to oppose it until he formed the government. And now that they're in government, now that they have a majority, they can do whatever they want, which is another lie and U-turn, which goes against what they said before the election and just when they started the new government. Now, the former cabinet minister David Davis, who obviously was a big campaigner in the 2000s to push David Cameron and everybody else in the Tories to scrap this, he said, while digital IDs and ID cards sound like modern and efficient solutions to problems like illegal immigration, such claims are misleading at best. The systems involved are profoundly dangerous to the privacy and fundamental freedoms of the British people. No system is immune to failure, and we have seen time and again governments and tech giants fail to protect people's personal data. If world-leading companies cannot protect our data, I have little faith that Whitehall would be able to do better. If politicians tell you that your data will be safe, why don't you ask them if they are willing to pay £10,000 compensation to each victim if there is a serious breach? The answer will be informative. That is a very, very important point to be made. Even the big tech companies that created the technology and use this technology to gather data, again, for marketing purposes and everything else, at best, sometimes they make mistakes. At worst, sometimes they get hacked or somebody in the company does something, right? Essentially, your data sometimes could be accessed by other people that you don't want. And these are the tech people. Now imagine a bunch of bureaucrats and civil servants in government having the same level of control. If the tech people in Silicon Valley can't keep your data safe, how can we trust the state? And as David Davis said, well, let's create a condition. If there is a mass cyber attack or somebody leaks it and thousands or maybe millions of citizens and residents get their data leaked, if the government says yes to the idea of paying every single person £10,000, okay. Obviously, don't surrender to the idea, but they're never going to say yes. They will never say yes. They like to take from you. They will never give anything back to you. There is the illusion of safety. There's a lot of people on the more liberal side, which again is quite an illiberal idea. They're not actually liberals anymore, they're leftists, because the actual liberals would oppose this. But the left-wing liberals who are in favor of this, because they always pick the idea of security over liberty. These are the same people in 2020 and 2021 pushed for the ideas of lockdown and more health mandates and everything else that happened after COVID, during COVID. And these guys are the ones who kept pushing for it. because they wanted to feel safe and they didn't trust anybody else and their neighbors. They would rat on their neighbors if they didn't wear a face mask, if they left their house for the second time. These are the people who are pushing this, saying, this is for our safety, this is fine. It will keep us protected. From whom? The biggest group of people that you should be worried about to keep yourself protected against is the government. It's always been the state. Because they are the ones with ultimate power. You could, technically speaking, you could cancel and delete your account on Amazon and your Alexa and not have any device. You can choose to do that. But you can't choose, if you're living in a country like Britain, you can't choose not to obey the government because they will basically come for you. Unless you leave the country, that's the only other option. And not everybody will be able to leave. Some people can, but not everybody else. Now, there's more information coming, especially in regards to the crisis in Downing Street with the potential leadership challenge against Starmer by Andy Burnham, which is kind of a hilarious option. While we wait for more info, let's get some reaction from you guys. We got RG, thank you for your super chat, saying, to be honest, in general, using digital IDs is not a bad idea. See, this is the problem. These are the people who believe in safety, in the name of safety, over liberties. Yeah, I can trust the government because I don't like to take risks. I don't like freedom. Most people don't want freedom. Most humans don't like freedom because with freedom comes responsibility. They like to feel safe. And these are the people who continue to push for governments and corporations to keep more control over your life. They're everywhere. In Canada, in the UK, in Israel, in the US, to keep you safe. It's okay. It's not a bad idea. They don't care about slippery slope. Every single time. We have it in Israel and it's fine. The problem is, how will it be used in a dictatorship that arrests you for hanging a UK flag at your own home? That's the other thing. So let's talk about Israel. Let's talk about Germany. Let's talk about all these countries that right now you might say a center-right government is in charge. Okay, fine. Well done. What about tomorrow? What about the next election? What about 5 years from now? Who's going to be in your government? There is no guarantee. It's like those who say, and I always joke about myself saying, the only public office I will accept is if I become the world dictator. Obviously, it's a joke, but there are a lot of people who actually believe in that. Because people with good ideas and well-intended people, they say, well, I will be a good dictator. Because the reason people say, firstly, the word dictator, people always see it as like tyranny. It doesn't always have to be tyranny. It's simply, the initial definition is you're not elected. And then you're in charge, you have to basically manage the country or the tribe. Most dictatorships obviously lead to tyranny, we know that. But hypothetically, there are people who say, well, I will be a good dictator. It's like when back in the day we would say, I will be a good king. Okay, hypothetically, let's just say we now have introduced a system where we're not going to elect. You're in charge. And the reason some people are in favor of that is because democracy obviously creates obstacles. You know, short-termism, people are worried about losing their seats. They have to make empty promises, lie. Dictators don't have to worry about that. Dictators can look long-term, next 20 years, 50 years. Xi Jinping is the same, for example. He's like, I don't have to worry about losing my job, so I'm going to plan for the next 30 years. So there are people who say, well, I'll be a good dictator. And I would say, okay, fine. I trust you. You will be a good dictator. So we have to change the system. You are now a dictator. What about when you die? Who's going to be next? Those who say using digital ID is fine. Those who say the government have total control of your health records is fine. Those who say, well, let's just introduce more mandates, it's fine for now. Because the people in charge, they're okay, as long as we have safeguard. What about tomorrow? You've now introduced a system that can now be used by anybody else in the future when the people that you like go away. It's dangerous. Ivan says, welcome to the new CCP. But the framework is now built. It doesn't mean that tomorrow the British government will be like CCP, but they now have the foundation of it for the future Labour government or any other government to become CCP. So you are creating the weapon. Somebody will eventually pull the trigger. It could be Starmer, it could be Andy Burnham, or it could be anybody else. Faithful Foundation says, hopefully the ideas will be attached to a Starlink Tesla phone, so with Neuralink, what could possibly go wrong? Of course, they won't be, but yep. And AMG says, no talk, no hear, no speak. Ivan also says, how much will this cost us taxpayers? A good few millions, but the app that they created for the COVID days for the NHS, the National Health Service, I forgot how much that cost. The test and trace thing, it was quite expensive. Let's just say tens of millions, actually hundreds of millions at the end with the overall cost. This is a major national database system, and it's the foundation of the central hub for the future for any potential social credit system. It's going to be billions. And that's just the creation. And maintenance going forward, it's going to be even more. You also need new manpower, bureaucrats to be there to monitor things, to back the data, run the data, the technology of it. It's going to be a very expensive thing. Forget about taking away your liberties. Brian says, look at the post office scandal. No, it's like politicians, the system, the state, bureaucrats, quangos, any entity, they can't even run basic operations. You really expect them to have control over your personal data and everything else? It's not really just about your name, your address, your date of birth. No. It says everything about you. It's not just about your, oh, well, it's okay, it's just my age and my gender. Everything's fine, right? Now, everything, including your movement. They can't even run the post office. Kevin says, Brit card equals 15-minute cities enforced by citizens' carbon credit. So as part of the things that have been discussed by those in Davos, obviously there have been ideas like 15-minute cities that have been trialled in the UK a few years ago. They've also been trialled in a number of other countries, failed miserably. The 15-minute city idea is basically, or neighborhood, is to have everything in one place so you don't have to basically leave. So you can just walk within 15 minutes. You have access to everything, your local post office, your hospital, your schools, which would sound nice. But the idea is to ensure that you won't have to get in your car and keep driving around between neighborhoods and areas because it's bad for the environment. That's what they say. The carbon credits is another thing, a punishment tax because you are destroying Greta Thunberg's environment. MG again, and Stu says, authoritarian labour equals iron fists of limb wrists. James says, as someone who suffers from panic disorder, this terrifies me. Human rights going out the window, feeling paranoid every day, they don't care. But they also live in their own bubble, so they genuinely believe those who are in government and in the state, they're sitting around. If they're watching this, they're like, I don't know what these people are panicking about. Well, you're sitting in your ivory towers with your own protection, your gated communities, your security. You seem fine. Firstly, nobody will be protected. This could be used against everybody, including those who are introducing it, every time. Graham says, I sent a letter to my MP, won't do much, they know. Yeah, of course. RG says, in my opinion, there is no difference between a paper ID or digital ID. Well, it's a slippery slope regardless. If you think they don't have a full control over citizens' data with or without, you're naive. That's why I don't think it matters. Oh, it definitely matters. See, this is the thing. So these are the defeatist mentalities that people had since the 70s and 80s. For example, they used to be told, this is the propaganda created by those who want control. Don't worry, we already know things about you. So there you'll be like, oh, really? So the state already has all the information. Then they say, yeah, we already basically have. So don't worry about it. Just sign this new thing or give away more data. We already have everything on you anyway. So it's fine. This is just, don't worry about it. It's just a nice, shiny new thing. Just sign it. Just give more taxes. It's gone. We already take taxes. So it's just a new tax. Or just give more data. We already have everything. They do it all the time. And there are people who are defeatists, like, oh, since the 70s. Well, the government, the big government, oh, Big Brother is already there. So they're going to ask for more taxes. They're going to ask for more information. They want me to give them my location, live location. They already have it anyway, right? So it's fine. It's not fine. It's called slippery slope because you were fine in the 70s, you were fine in the 80s and 90s, and now we are in this mess. Years ago, when idiots were introducing sugar tax or plastic tax, and people said, well, because people have prejudice, my neighbor is fat. I don't like that neighbor because it's fat. So I'm going to be backing sugar tax. Sounds fun. Tomorrow, more taxes will be introduced, slippery slope, now you're going to be affected. They went with plastic bags because plastic is bad. You said yes. You gave them more leeway to then do more taxes. That's just one example. Taxation is the sin taxes is a perfect example. It's always in your interest, they say. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes you look at it and say, well, yeah, makes sense. That thing is harmful. That's literally why it's called sin tax. But then they come for everything else because who is the god of morality to define what is a sin? You know, they say obviously gambling is a sin, drinking alcohol is a sin, using plastic is a sin, having too much sugar is unhealthy for you, that's a sin. What's a sin tomorrow? Free speech? That's happening. Because first, people were fine with a bit of hate speech laws. Yeah, it will be good for the government to ensure people are not rude against each other. Yeah, I'm going to say yes to this law. Next day, next week, next year, more hate speech laws. Then eventually, no freedom of speech. Look at Canada, look at the UK. Just two examples. Because people became defeatist. That is the reality. And it's always those who think they are backing something because they are like, well, it's fine because it's going to affect somebody else. It's just going to affect my fat neighbor. Well, they're going to come for you next. Perhaps there's no way in hell does this snake deserve to stay in office if he's trying to force this crap on us. Well, that's why even the Labour Party are now pushing for the leadership challenge, and they only have basically Andy Burnham, who's not even in Parliament, as an option. So basically what they will potentially do, get one of their Labour MPs who is a pro-Burnham person to resign, to be a by-election, and then Andy Burnham will be the candidate and then win a safe seat for Labour. Christy says, permission isn't the same as freedom. Yep. So yeah, over the next few days, we will have the outline planned for the new digital ID infrastructure that will be led by Whitehall, Westminster. We will get more information about what sort of features it will have at first, but it's about what it can do in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time. So there are people who say, well, it's just a digital card. It's not just a digital card. It's the infrastructure to be able to monitor even your movement, your GPS, your live location, to everything about your taste, about your political views, because that's going to be included, obviously, your political views and your voting records. Everything will be that. John from Canada says, digital ID for breathing air in 2026. Yeah. That's a good point. Too many people are apathetic. I mean, this is exactly how they get away with it. So all they have to do, there are some people who say, I don't think I care. There are people who are in favor because they think they are choosing security over liberty, because liberty is chaos in their head. Security is obviously safety and is warmer. It's just a different mindset of humans in every society. And then there are those that they could be brainwashed. You brainwash people based on two approaches. One is defeatism. Hey, we already know everything about you. It's that. So just give more consent for us to have more control. And then, so these are the people who've already been paranoid and they're like, well, I have no control over my life. I can't fight against the government, so take everything. And you could also brainwash those who can be pushed to support this idea by telling them that is a threat. You could always use national security as a threat or global health. They did that in 2020. They are now using illegal migration as an excuse. Well, this is a national security issue, so we have to support it. And there are those who would say yes. Yeah, it will help to identify who is an illegal and who is not. We already have that. Every employer has to ensure that there is paperwork for their employees. And the government, it's their job with the police to do a crackdown to check the employers, go to the local high street shops to ensure that the employees are legal. What do you think ICE is doing in the United States? They are literally doing immigration raids right now as we speak. We already have that power. Most of the things that the government are using as an excuse to introduce, we already have them, including, for example, dangerous speech, in the name of hate speech. We already have had in all our countries existing laws in place for people who want to incite violence, for example, or do a plot. That already exists. We already have those powers. Prince Andrew uses a fake name online. I don't know why that's relevant. Let's get some reaction from the members of Tousi TV Plus. Of course, if you become a member, you can get access to this. So you can scan the QR code. Speaking of data, obviously, but this is obviously with your consent. And it only goes to our website. You can obviously sign up on tousi.tv. It's all about consent, which we don't have that with governments. That is a difference. All right, the members. Let's see what we have. We got Deb saying this is what they are introducing here in Australia. It's disgusting. Yeah, it was trialed in a number of places. Now it can be implemented in the Anglosphere. Nothing to do with immigration. It's so that they can follow your bank accounts, and so it will be impossible to avoid it through undeclared giftings, for instance. But this will also help them to essentially do what the Canadian government did against the truckers when Justin Trudeau essentially made a move by freezing people's bank accounts and their finances and everything else. That's what they can do. Or, for example, in authoritarian countries like the Islamic Republic of Iran, it will make it easier for them to be able to control everything that you have and everything that you do. Now we can also give it to so-called democracies. Now, scary, will it only be residents of Britain? I did joke that speaking to my dad for over 10 minutes, it would be recorded forever. In Israel, can't be digital. We have a large selection of the population with no smartphones or internet. Yeah, it's mostly the ultra-Orthodox. So it will be residents in Britain, so that includes permanent residents, guests, and citizens in the UK. This is to differentiate, basically. Starmer strikes again. How is a card going to keep you safe from an Islamist with a bladed weapon? We were safe until these boats folks started arriving in droves. We weren't really. They haven't really been safe in about 30 years. So even before the small boats, things have been getting worse since the 1990s. It's compounding the problem, not solving it. Yep. It's always under the guise of the greater good. They won't stop until they completely control everything we do. Trudeau once said he loves how China is run. We've also had a number of British politicians also saying the same thing, including, I believe, Starmer and Jeremy Hunt, the former Tory leadership candidate, who said that he admires, for example, how countries like China are able to have enough power to help people. That's how they frame it, obviously. Tom says, it seems things are developing to a point where the British people will qualify for political asylum. Dawn says the most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help, said the former President Reagan. How can they afford this system when they owe Palestine £2 trillion? Yeah, that £2 trillion is not going to be paid. So the Palestinian Authority is coming for it, but we don't have that money. Neil says that when they tried to introduce it in 2005, I was against it. Yeah, well, it was discussed in 2005, but introduced in 2009. But yeah, I thought they might eventually use it for limiting purchases in the stores because of the nanny state. I think the government is far more in line than I gave them credit for. So that will be one of the things they could be used for, and it's already been discussed in terms of rationing. Not necessarily immediately. There's not some sort of crazy thing to do like tomorrow. But they've said that about the digital currency. The digital currency, central bank digital currency, which obviously is already being used by the authoritarian countries like Russia, China, being piloted in Iran. And some of the Western globalists also want to do the same. The point of it is to be able to control your access to your own money, Right now, the only way the governments could basically stop it is using central banks to tell other banks to, for example, switch off their ATMs or cash machines so that you can't withdraw cash in times of crisis, for example, like what happened in Greece a few years ago or during the financial crisis in general. But with the digital currencies or things like this that they're introducing now, it will make it easier for them, just one button, and you'll be able to only, for example, use your money for example, only milk and bread, hypothetically speaking. If there is a war, if whatever's going on, if there's some sort of famine, well, you can only use your money to buy milk or bread or whatever. This will be the capability that it will have that right now they don't have that power. Right now, they can only shut down ATMs, but that's basically the only thing they could do. Or they can freeze your bank account, but they can't manage it. They can't give you limited access, for example. There's so much that they will be able to do in the future that they are not doing now. Keir Starmer is a cheap knockoff of Joseph Stalin. Stalin with an R. Brilliant. Now, we got a couple of spammers in the live chats. I'm going to get rid of them. One of them is this one. We don't like spammers in the live chat. There we go. You have now been deported. Social credit score on the horizon. Make a post criticizing Islam. No money for you. That's just one example. Or if you, for example, say only women are women, yeah, you might be punished. You might lose some points, basically. Wait, but someone said something about mods. It says, so much money to see. What? That's not a sentence. Is making, but no mods. You do realize mod, as in moderators for the live chat, it's nothing to do with money or no money. It's a free speech philosophy. We do not believe in mods on the live chat. We don't believe in moderating the live chat. This is a free speech channel. You can say whatever you want. The only thing that obviously we're against is people who copy and paste. Obviously, the first is you guys. If you see a spammer and if they're annoying you, there's a button. There are things you could press on your computer. You can basically block them. You could always do that. And obviously, when they get on my nerves, when I see them, I also ban them myself. Otherwise, no, we don't believe in moderators. Never. All right. So, we will get more information about the situation with the leadership challenge against Keir Starmer by Andy Burnham. In the meantime, the best thing you can do is to download the Tousi TV app, the home of geopolitical news, from your app stores to get full access to the channel. And of course, as I said, make sure to join Tousi TV Plus by scanning the QR code or just going on tousi.tv. Find the link in the description for complete access to everything that we have, including all the news posts across throughout the day. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya Tousi, and we are the media.